Why, hello there, and welcome to this video. My name is Leah, and today we are going to be talking about voice training stuffs. But first, holy crap, my channel is getting a lot of attention, and I am genuinely super thankful for it. Hello to the over 4,000 people that have subscribed to my channel. That is double what I had when I posted my last video. So I have to thank you very much for helping me hit 2,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers, and 4,000 subscribers, all with one video. That is incredible. The amount of support that I've gotten, the amount of engagement, the amount of people that have joined my Discord and been incredibly friendly. Like, I feel the support and it's been really incredible to see people organize during these trying times. Now, I know my last two videos were pretty serious topics, and I will have more videos about serious topics in the future, but today I kind of just wanted to do a video going over something that was actually requested quite a lot from me, and that is a voice training video. It's kind of funny. I received quite a few comments of people saying like, hey, your voice passes really well, your voice training went really well, you're doing a great job with your voice, I like the sound of your voice, that kind of stuff. And in real life, I do kind of like the sound of my voice, except for when I listen to recordings of it, of course. With the mic and the filters and the settings and the stuff, I don't know if I'm just bad at setting it up or whatever. I'm not really a sound engineer or anything like that, but I feel like I sound pretty boyish over the mic, and it's honestly kind of a pain point for me when I'm editing my videos. So like, it's surprising to me that people think that my voice passes so well over this mic in the YouTube videos, because I don't really hear it as much, but that's okay. I'm glad that people enjoy my voice and like the sound of it. So today we are going to be talking about 5 stages of voice training, and this is basically just me taking the entire voice training process and breaking it down into 5 stages so you can understand the process that you're moving through while creating a new voice. Before we get started, I just wanted to say I do have a little bit of experience like messing around on Xbox and stuff with friends over mics. I've always thought voice acting is a really interesting thing, and at one point I really wanted to be like a voice actor or whatever, or actress, I guess. And so I spent quite a bit of time mimicking like voices that I was hearing as I was growing up. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. Also, I went to college for 2 things, music and philosophy. So I have a lot of experience with singing because of my music experience in college. And I bring that up just to say that like voice training was a challenge for me. It was definitely hard. It was not as hard as I think it is for people who do not have the experience or the background of playing with their voice to begin with. So I understand why voice training is so frustrating for so many people. It is genuinely a really hard thing to do if you've never tried to alter your voice. Getting into that is not necessarily an easy thing. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about the 5 stages. The first stage is the stage where you are going to just be playing around with your voice. This stage is actually the most important stage, even though it's just the first one. And the reason why is because this is where you have the most possibilities. Like, you have not crafted a new voice yet. You have not set yourself into a new voice yet. So you have all sorts of possibilities. You can really generate whatever kind of voice you want to generate. And when you genuinely aren't aware of what you're able to create with your voice, sometimes you can have really fun or interesting moments during this stage where you create a voice or a sound that is hilarious or really interesting, or just something you never thought was possible from yourself. I recommend watching a few guides during this stage, just going over some basic like musculature and like ways that people try to physically adjust their structures to generate different sounds. That kind of stuff can be really useful for some people. Seeing graphs or other things represented in videos can be really useful for some people, and understanding how things are working internally. But during this stage, the really important thing here is to just be shameless with it. Like, just don't worry about how anything sounds, or whether it's convincing, or whether it's even what you're going for. Like, none of that matters at this point. It's really just a matter of figuring out what your range is, what's possible with your voice, and what, like, where you are at essentially. And during this stage, I recommend that you do a lot of this stuff alone, a lot of this exploration by yourself. That way you're not worried about what people are thinking about while you're trying to do this exploration. You want to try to do this during a private moment so that you can really just figure out what's possible without worrying about what people are thinking. So that's stage one. And each of these stages are gonna everyone's gonna stay in a different stage for a different length of time. You know, some people are gonna play around for like a couple days and then they're gonna move on to the next stage. But some people are gonna play around for a lot longer. It just really depends, you know, where you're at. Some people might find it really challenging to alter their voice at all at first, and it might take a while for someone to even figure out how to adjust things in a way that creates a different sound, because, you know, it can be very habitual. It can be very stuck, your voice, if you've never messed around with it. So don't sweat it if you spend a very short or a very long time in any one of these stages. The amount of time that you spend doing these is not important. It's just making sure that you get the important stuff out of the stage. So stage two is observation. So this stage is going to happen once you've explored the range of your voice and what you're able to do with it. Now you're going to start paying attention to how it feels to create different sounds. At this stage, you're going to move away from just playing with your voice with no direction, and you're going to move towards trying to create a voice that you like. And as you do this, as you get closer and closer to that voice that you like, you need to be observing how it feels to be making those sounds and paying very close attention to what the musculature and everything else feels like as you're doing so. Something that can be really useful at this stage is recording yourself. Now, I know a lot of people, me included, I do not like listening to the sound of my own voice. In my head, it sounds fine, but when I listen to a recording of myself, it's painful. I don't really like it that much. You know, you get a little bit desensitized to it, but I don't think anyone really likes listening to recordings of themselves. Regardless, I think it's important to record yourself during this stage so that, like, if you find a voice that you really like, you may lose it and then you may not really know how to get back to that point. But if you have a recording of it, then you can hear it and then you can try to mimic that voice. And then once you're able to successfully mimic it and recreate the voice, you then do what this stage is all about, and you observe and you try to ingrain in yourself like what it feels like to be creating that voice. So that's stage two. The next stage is stage three, and this is recreating the voice. So essentially in stage one, we played around, and in stage two, you sort of aimed that play in a direction until you found a voice that you liked, and you started observing how it felt to create that voice. Now in stage three, we are very, very purposefully trying to recreate the voice that you have found, that you enjoy, and that you kind of vaguely understand how to do. For me, this was actually the most frustrating stage. I found this stage to be really hard for me, and I spent kind of quite a lot of time in here. Maybe not so long as other people, maybe more time than other people, but you know, that's the thing about it. Like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter how long you stay in these individual stages. That's not important. What's important is that you're making progress and you're trying to, you know, work towards your goals. So for me, early on, I created a voice that I liked, and I didn't really do such a good job of like stage two, observing how it felt and what it was like to make that voice happen. And so I kind of lost it, and I spent a little bit of time trying to get back to it. It was frustrating. It was a little bit frustrating. It's probably just that feeling of like, oh, I had it and then I lost it. Like that feeling is kind of annoying when you're like, you feel like you have it and then you lose it and you're like, oh, I gotta work at it again to try to get that voice back. But what's most important in this stage is just consistency. Like you want to try to recreate the voice as frequently and as consistently as you possibly can. And I would say that once you are at the point where you can reliably jump into your new voice or what the voice that you have created, then you are done with this stage. You are able to recreate the voice reliably. It doesn't have to sound perfect. It doesn't have to sound passing. That is not important at this stage. None of that is important in any of those stages before now. It can sound incredibly rough, but as long as it's like sort of what you're going for, you are done with this stage. Now you're on stage four, which is consistency. This is the stage where you need to essentially give up your old voice. This is hard for a lot of people, but this is the big jump. This is the leap. This is the moment where you are saying, goodbye, old voice. It was nice knowing you. Hello, new voice. It's nice knowing you. The reason why is you want this to become natural. You want it to become just the way you sound. You want it to be natural when you are talking to other people and to sound natural. And the only way to do that is to essentially use it as your own voice. Use this voice as your own voice, the voice that you have created. Congratulations. It's yours. Own it. For a lot of people, this is sort of the moment where voice training fails, and a lot of people find it very hard to take that leap over to the new voice and leave the old one behind. And I think a big reason why is because people feel like they have to be perfect, they have to get it right all the time, and if they slip up or if they slip back into their old voice, they just kind of start giving up. They feel embarrassed or something like that, and they kind of give up. And it's not easy either, because often at this stage, your new voice is not necessarily the most natural sounding. Maybe your laugh sounds a little awkward still, or maybe you just are still working with like trying to adjust your pitch to kind of match what feels natural for you. But regardless of that, this stage is about sort of just trucking ahead through that and making sure that you're focusing on returning to that new voice at every opportunity. For me, when I was in this stage, I would find myself slip back to my old voice in interactions with people. And then I would walk away from that interaction and say to myself in my head, of course, that was my old voice that slipped in there. And I'm going to consciously correct the next time I talk to that person. So someone might have that happen where they slip back into their old voice and they just give up. They just say, okay, well, oh, well, I tried. You need to be really persistent about it. You need to recognize like, okay, I slipped back into my old voice, but you don't need to let that defeat you or frustrate you. You just need to realize that like, that's just the way that you have talked for an incredibly long time. It's natural to have habits, and it's not easy to change things like your voice. So this stage lasts all the way up until you are able to speak with your new voice almost 100% of the time. Like once you know that you're not just going to randomly slip back into your old voice, you're done with this stage. And you're on to stage 5. Stage 5 is the most boring stage. It is the stage where essentially you are already done, but there's still work to do, of course. So stage 5 is just refining your new voice. This one's pretty easy. There's not really all that much to talk about, to be totally honest with you. I feel like at this stage, you should start thinking about things like when you're laughing or when you're displaying different emotions. How do you sound? Does it sound natural? And really all you're trying to do is make sure that you're not straining yourself, to make sure that the voice comes out naturally and doesn't cause you any physical issues or pain or discomfort, and also that it sounds natural. You want to make sure that you sound in such a way where you feel comfortable, and obviously you want to get to the point where you are satisfied with how you sound at basically all times. So one tip I can give for stage 5, and this is kind of something that I think has been said very many times, but it bears repeating. Oftentimes we worry too much about pitch when we start voice training. Like if you're going one way, you might try to raise your pitch a whole bunch. And if you're going another way, you might try to drop your pitch a whole bunch. But if you pay really close attention when you're talking to people out and about, vocal range varies widely from person to person. And there are plenty of examples of people that are AMAB with incredibly high-pitched voices, and there are people who are AFAB with incredibly deep voices. Like if you're out and about, pitch varies naturally from person to person quite a lot. And I think early in voice training, a lot of us use pitch as a way to alter our voice very directly, and we think that it's helping when it's really not. Having a passable voice has almost nothing to do with pitch. One other thing you might work on at stage 5 is like singing or something like that. That's something that I've actually been working on quite a lot lately, because I feel like at this point I am in stage 5. This is my voice. I don't have any other voice. This is how I sound. And what's actually funny is that my vocal range has been diminished kind of quite a lot, to be real with you. There are a lot of voices that I simply cannot do anymore, because doing this voice has like really made me lose a lot of the lower range. And on top of that, doing like AMAB voices or whatever, it's just not very comfortable anymore. But one thing I really like to do is sing when I'm in my car, when I'm driving around. I love singing, and it's been really hard for me since starting voice training to not have access to my singing voice in the same way that I used to. And so lately I have been working really hard on trying to figure out how to sing with my new voice in a way that feels comfortable and doesn't sound super weird. But that's it. Those are all 5 stages of the voice training process, according to me. I mean, I know that, there are going to be other people who have other tips. I have watched a lot of guides on voice training, and I think there are plenty of other content creators out there who have made really great videos going over voice training for anyone who is trying to seek it. But I do hope that this video was useful to some of you regardless. To be honest with you, I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that you should let this process be fun. Try to enjoy it and try to have fun with it. Try to treat it like a moment of play. You're just having fun. You're doing voices, and if you take it too seriously, it can just be really hard, and you can get very self-defeating about it when you're not able to be very consistent or you're struggling with a particular step. Be kind to yourself and realize that this is an ongoing process. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a day. It's something that you're going to have to work at consistently for quite a while, but eventually your voice will just lock in and you will have a new voice. And it's honestly, from my experience, pretty awesome. One of the weirdest things for me is having my head voice change over the course of time. Like, I know not everyone has this, but I have an internal monologue. I have a voice in my head that is me talking to myself pretty much all the time. And it used to sound like my old voice, and now it sounds like my new voice in my head. And that was one of the most incredible things when that shift happened, because for a while that was actually really frustrating, is that my internal voice sounded like my old self, but my new voice, I was using my new voice, my external voice sounded like this. And so it created like this really weird cognitive dissonance. And it thankfully got resolved after a few months of being very consistent about using the new voice. But it really is just an interesting experience to go through and shift and change the way that you speak. Talking is such a natural form of self-expression. Being able to alter your self-expression while still being authentic is an incredible thing. And I think it's beautiful how people are able to create and craft these new voices to express themselves in ways that they've never been able to before. All right, so I will leave it at that. Due to the last video, I'm probably going to be monetized like very soon, and I will try to get some of that going. I would like to have like channel memberships and some other stuff. On top of that, I'm also considering streaming on Twitch once a week or so. I have done some streaming in the past, and I really, really enjoy it. I very much enjoy engaging with people and chatting with people that are in the chat, the live stream chat. It's fun. I find it really nice to be able to engage with people like that. It feels more direct than like talking to someone in the comment section of a video or something. But I'm just not sure if I would do just chatting, talk about politics, or if I would play video games and chat with you guys. Let me know what you would like to see if I did streaming stuff on Twitch. Also, leave a comment down below, like the video for the algorithm, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, all that wonderful stuff. I want to keep this momentum going. I would love to do YouTube full time. That would be incredible. I would be able to put out a lot more content. I feel like I would be able to do a lot more organizing. So I'm going to work really hard towards that goal, and I hope I can get there. I do have a Discord, and it is growing quite rapidly. I would love to see more people join. I have a link tree in the description of my videos. You click that link tree, all my socials pop up on there, and you can go to my Discord from that. There are a lot of people already in there, and we're trying to cultivate a compassionate community where we can, really thrive together. So that's going to wrap things up from me for now, and I will be back soon with another video. Until then, do me one tiny little itty bitty favor and drink yourself some water.